Freedom! Before we start, I wanted to share a quote from B.J. Palmer that's relative to this episode. While other professions are concerned with changing the environment to suit the weakened body, chiropractic is concerned with strengthening the body to suit the environment. There's no way I can possibly share everything that's needed to build a sustainable practice in just one episode. However, I will share bits and pieces over the course of the videos because there's not just one thing that makes a practice sustainable. It's a multitude of things done predictably over the years, just like health. But as far as I'm concerned, chiropractic is the most important element to your health. Without proper nerve supply between the brain and the body, there's no way the body can function at its optimum best. And as a side note, that's why we should only be focusing on chiropractic in our offices. It's the only place you can get chiropractic. You can get all the other things that some chiropractors offer in their offices at other places. Now back to my point. Practice's model is much the same. There's no one thing that makes a practice healthy. Continued view in your life and practice will change. I feel the most important part of making a practice healthy is what we'll be discussing today. The philosophy of chiropractic is by far the most important part of what we do as chiropractors. It's our why. Without our why, there would be no chiropractic. We would have been assimilated and absorbed by the medical profession decades ago if we didn't have this philosophy as our foundation. The philosophy is our compass. If it wasn't for our unique philosophy, we would have lost our way and been absorbed by the medical profession many years ago. I've heard over the last 20 years that chiropractic is a three-legged stool, made up of philosophy, science, and art. I'm going to have to disagree with that statement. I see it as a one-legged stool supported by the philosophy. Our unique philosophy dictates how we use the science and the art. Before I get too much hate over this, let me point out, much of our science has been stolen by other professions, and much of our art was stolen as well. We've incorporated the art and techniques of other professions. The difference is how we utilize the science and the art of others to fit into our unique philosophy, which is found here in Stevenson's. Every chiropractor should be required to read this book and own our philosophy to the degree that they can answer any question in their office philosophically. The green books and the blue books are a must to practice in this model. After all, the philosophy is our why, our compass. The next quote comes from a buddy back in school, Brett Zemba. With everything in life, there's a how and a why. Before you learn how, you must understand why. For without the why, there would be no how. Chiropractic philosophy is the why behind the how. Since we're talking about why, there's no better source than Simon Sinek's Start with Why. He says that we need to communicate from the inside out. Does that sound familiar to anyone? Yes, of course. Our philosophy, right? Our neocortex is the what center of the brain. The limbic portion is the how and why centers, and is also many times referred to as the lizard or primitive brain. And it's also a part of the brain that gives us our gut feelings. Simon came up with what he calls the golden circle. Now here's some images of the golden circle. Why is a belief? Hows are the actions we take to realize the belief? What are the results of those actions? When all three are in balance, trust is built and value is perceived. A failure to communicate why only creates stress and doubt. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. That's because, as the old saying goes, by winning hearts and minds. The limbic portion is the heart and the neocortex is the mind. The rational logical centers of the neocortex confirm that your gut decision made by the limbic portions were the right choice to satisfy the ego. Our why is the most important thing we do and share. A why must be clear about its purpose, cause, or belief. And we must make sure that everything we do or say must be consistent and authentic to that belief. If the levels of the golden circle are in balance, all those that share in the why will be drawn to the service like a moth to a light bulb. So now I created this hierarchy of chiropractic concept many years ago after reading Start with Why. Visualize the pyramid being cone-shaped, where the philosophy is the why of chiropractic on top, science is the how in the middle, representing the universal laws and principles of chiropractic, and the art is the what on the bottom, being the application of the universal laws and principles of chiropractic. So when we start with why, with what we believe, our philosophy, people will tap into their innate strive to include our care as symbols of their value and beliefs for themselves and their families. Understanding these beliefs make them feel special, like they belong to something bigger. And they will feel a sense of tribe affiliation with all the other people receiving regular lifetime care. And that's what our profession does for us and those coming into our offices. It relieves stress and doubt and builds trust. Remember, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. When people understand that chiropractic is not about treating a pain or a condition, that it's about function, they will continue to lifetime care just as chiropractors do for themselves and their families, week after week, year after year, decade after decade. You may be asking yourself, that sounds great, but how do we accomplish that? Might I suggest the law of diffusion of innovation? Explain in much greater detail and start with why. Now, you're possibly asking, well, what's innovation have to do with chiropractic? Well, the law explains more than just the spread of innovation or technology. It also explains the spread of ideas. Here's basically how the law works. Our population is made up of 5 segments that fall across the bell curve. Innovators, the early adopters, the early majority, late majority, and the laggards. Basically, it breaks down like this. The innovators are the ones who wait in line for new technology that can easily be bought a week later. And the laggards are the ones who only buy new technology because the old ones no longer work because their technology is outdated. And all the others fall in between those two mindsets. I'd have to say that we're not even out of the innovator stage when it comes to practicing chiropractic in its purity. Statistics show that as a profession, we perform 35 million adjustments annually. That sounds like a big number until you consider there's over 330 million people in the United States. Even by compromising chiropractic as a treatment, that's only about 1 out of 10 people getting some form of chiropractic care annually. And that's not chiro math, that's real math. Which only puts us into the early adopter stage after 126 years of existence. There's currently 70,000 chiropractors in this country. So let's divide that number into 35 million, which comes to 500 people annually apiece. So let's figure that number out over the course of a year. Let's say we do it over 50 weeks, since we wouldn't want to overwork anyone. So now that translates to 10 people per week. Pathetic. And chiropractors want to act like we're killing it as a profession. I was at a chiropractic event some years ago, and the speaker stated that according to the Gallup poll, over 50% of the population had been to a chiropractor. The whole tent exploded with excitement. Now that's what I like to refer to as chiromasturbation. Seeing a chiropractor 1 to 2 times in a lifetime is not chiropractic. Any more than brushing your teeth 1 to 2 times in a lifetime would be considered dental care. Nor would or should it be something to celebrate. We need to take ownership of the mess that the profession is in. And according to the law of diffusion, when 15 to 18% of the population is utilizing your services, a tipping point will be created, and mass market success can be expected. The one thing that will change our trajectory is our why, the philosophy, our understanding of the ADIO, above, down, inside, out approach to life. I'm not saying you need to teach everyone coming in your office about innate intelligence or universal intelligence, or that people need to grasp the concepts as well as we do. However, I do think that it's important for people to understand that there is an inner power that thrives to keep the body in balance and strives towards homeostasis. Our job as chiropractors is to assist the body in helping to correct its own vertebral subluxations, to allow proper communication between the brain and the body, and teach the people the importance and value of doing chiropractic care on a lifetime basis. But before you can teach those principles, you need to own them. And the only way you can do that is to read the green and blue books. Now, this is my working copy of Stevenson's. This is a must. Everyone should be reading this. Notice all the tabs in it, highlights in it, all the way through this, because it's my working copy. I used to wonder where the founding fathers even came up with this philosophy as I was reading through the books, because they're so elaborate and concise. I came up with this possibility because of the work I put into the last video and in this one. And based off of the other non-chiropractic books that I have read from the early 1900s, and many of them even mentioned innate. I used to wonder what caused people to move away from the metaphysical mindset of the time. Was it a war or some other kind of distraction? Well, now I think it was the medical machine that was the cause of destroying one of the prevailing thoughts at the time, that healing comes from within. Because an ADIO philosophy empowers the individual to understand that health is an inside job and that you are responsible for taking care of it. The outside-in approach disempowers people, making them a victim. Those that scoff at the philosophy probably never even read a green book, or only read a cherry-picked quote that only reinforces their misunderstanding of the philosophy. Thankfully, our founding fathers utilized this life-changing ADIO philosophy as our foundation, as our why. Because without the philosophy, chiropractic would be just a footnote in history. If we continue to look like medicine, we are only competition, not a threat. However, if we start changing the paradigm of thinking of people that health and life depends upon proper function, we most certainly will become a threat. I feel that the top of the medical food chain know exactly what chiropractic has to offer and don't want that truth to ever get out there. And that's why they pay us to keep our mouths shut, to keep us into the medical treatment arena. And sadly, it's worked pretty well. I know when it comes to practice, you have a choice. Imagine if you don't address the fact that you aren't currently communicating why in your practice, wouldn't you regret not addressing the why and continue to have a sick practice? Imagine if you took the time and owned the why, and where you were able to communicate the why that has showed us as chiropractors the wisdom of utilizing chiropractic on a lifetime basis for ourselves and our families. Would that lead to a stronger or weaker practice? That's why I created this video series, to empower the profession to have a healthy practice that serves people and their families on a lifetime basis, just as we do for ourselves and our families. People are looking for a change. Be that change the people are looking for by sharing the chiropractic why, and start really changing lives. Without a strong foundation, the profession will fall into a what profession. I want to share a story that might get you to understand how important foundation is. Palace 2 was a beautiful 22-story apartment tower set alongside the white beaches of Rio de Janeiro. During the annual Brazilian festival Carnival, the building collapsed, killing 8 people. If Carnival hadn't been going on, many more probably would have died. Later, the top experts from all around the world flew in to investigate why a newly built construction suddenly collapsed. What they found was that the tower was cheaply built. Local sea sand and seawater were used to make the concrete. The tower was dubbed the Concrete Titanic and was quickly leveled. Without a strong foundation, your efforts are bound to fail. The philosophy is our foundation, our why. With that change, our practices become stronger and healthier, and humanity benefits. Because the bodies of more individuals become stronger and healthier with proper communication between the brain and the body. By changing the minds and spines of those coming into our offices, you are creating practice freedom!